Ready when you're ready.
I smile, despite the glares, asking stares, rolling eyes, decide, such a device. Not another homeless bum wanting something from us. Disgust is my daily bread. Invisible. I'm not really there. No one seems to care. Many pass me by. Never see me cry. Days I feel I've died. My angels, nowhere in sight. Invisible inside, I'm not even here. Outside, my tears have disappeared. Tears drop, tears into a sidewalk puddle. Only I can see. No one else but me. Dropped into a homeless hole. My heart no longer knows how deep is this dark well. Inside, I breathe. Empty, I can tell. Invincible once was I to me. Many more blessed as well to see. Knew that someone that was there. So many loves, so many cares. Oh, someone who was really there, truly there. All of me that all could really see. So many years and then friends, laughter, and so much love. Those flashes of that time and spirit long gone. Now, the only one that knows, his head bowed, touched toes. He writes this lonely poem. Those cars still pass me by. My smile gone inside, though outside shining strong. Despite not even one lonely, not even one dying only, not even one smile to meet me, greet me instead. Invisible to all. No one feels my pain. Most think he's insane. My conversations are with me. Those other sides split of me to keep me company. Just me, I, and myself left to talk and to debate. That special part of me, it's fading memory. You still pass me by. Those so many fancy cars. Look, please, look at lonely me. It seems so long ago, my dreams. How could you even know? The sun beams through my eyes, reflections of goodbyes. Really? Can't you try to look back to a son, a good man? Was I? Even just a glance, a moment to perchance to see me do that warrior dance? My dreams could show you how. To many I was a star, many more than me. Now falling from the sky, and beautiful no more. Dreams shattered in my heart, invisible now with me. Not friends nor strangers know that love, that man, that soul. So much more love. That man is long gone now. There's that dirty bum. Certainly not I. Not that cool guy. Seems he might just die. Says it was this youngin'. He said he had a gun and he died last year. He disappeared. Invisible.
Bang. Steve.
Peace, audience. This is Adams Gerard, LA Ghetto Time News, notes for the mind, delivering the news. Shout out, peace to y'all. Love your families. Blessings and peace. Today, man, want to talk about awareness and how not having awareness can affect the day and time that we living in, and how it has affected us in previous time. Now, the definition of awareness, basically to simplify it, is to be aware of all surroundings. Be aware of the powers that be, the powers that are in hidden darkness, and to understand and to combat these dark forces. What and who are these dark forces? So we know who the dark forces is, but I don't think we know what are dark forces. basically, what mechanisms do dark forces use to suppress the people? So this whole thing is about financial gain. Just like when we're dealing with capitalism. Uh, Capitalism is basically a mechanism to capitalize on growth and revenue and uh and financial gain. So we basically dealing with bankers. You know, bankers go back to our founding fathers. You know, these dark forces, these mechanisms. Um, when we're dealing with communism, we're basically dealing with a one world society. Well, I say that America is a one world society. When you look at China and these other foreign countries, they got cell phones, they drive cars, they got on uh material objects and fancy clothes and you know living upscale. I mean, is that really communism? You know, other countries would say, "Oh, they're communists." I mean, but you're living just like them, right? So the world is based off of financial gain. Um, and so in this financial gain, there has the there has become a gap in society where the rich get richer and the poor are getting poorer, you know? And so, me personally, this system will never leave until a catastrophic event happen. That's just how I feel, you know what I'm saying? So, I go around and I ask people, which I will be doing a presentation, just basically going around giving everybody an interview, physical interviews, asking them, when do you think that the gap will close between the rich and the poor? How many years? How many centuries? And I'm telling you, audience, I've been getting some negative some negative answers, man. I have people saying 400 more years of this. Wow. And then on top of that, we're headed into the 5G era. Now, I happen to be going to school for A plus certification, computer technician. So, in that school, we're learning a lot of things about 5G, what kind of like the average person don't know, and and why is 5G so advanced? And so 5G is advanced, um, basically dealing with speed. So the speed is faster than 4G, and that's just to break it down in layman terms. You know what I'm saying? We dealing with latency, uh, dealing with the binary system, reading much faster, and all that. So basically, with this 5G, would enable, uh, say for instance, the the job system. Millions of people are going to lose their jobs. Jobs that you thought would stay around forever are going to disappear. Cashiers, um, um, mechanics. I mean, man, I would advise you guys to go do some research on 5G and just look at them them YouTube videos that's coming out, and they projecting what 5G is going to look like in 10 years. They say over about I think they said about 60 million jobs will be banished. So the new job will be you controlling or operating the computer. And then as time goes by, you won't even need that man to control the computer no more, because it's going to be self-sufficient. So that's that Terminator age right there. Y'all know what I'm talking about. So, and so uh financial gain is ruining the world. And so we just want to give some basic statistics on, and just give awareness on uh where we headed. And this is not necessarily showing up to date statistics, but I wanted to show earlier statistics, because anybody that's conscious or has awareness knows that these statistics went up since this period in time. So just basically want to just give you just present some info, whether you know it or you don't know it. You don't know it, share it. You know it, do more videos about it. You know what I'm saying? Or spread the awareness, of the hidden forces, and and how the mechanism that was instituted ever since Andrew Jackson's trying to think what he called it, sort of like let me see. Oh, Reconstruction Act. And so the Reconstruction Act was to basically bring America into the technological age, the machinery that they had then. And so he also instituted the the factory complexes, prison factory complexes. This guy did this in the 1800s, man. The industrial federal prison complexes, man. And so that's when the Constitution come in. With you committed a crime, now you're back a slave. All parolees are basically labeled as slaves. Yeah, and everything combines together, to make one faction, which I call communism. And so the people that's the people uh, that fell victim to this process are what you would call the minority. So let's get into the slides on that right there, because hopefully, man, this will, spread the info. Just get it out there as much as we can. And this I mean, my message is simple and plain. If we reduce our spending habits, uh, learn how to live off the land. Well, we can't live off the land, because that's a crime to have an animal in your backyard. You can't even milk a sheep in your backyard no more. You know what I'm saying? But if we can limit ourselves from the material objects of this world, man, I mean, we can, um, like I said, we can never escape capitalism. So you have to join capitalism. If you want to leave something for your kids, where they can be safe and be healthy and be financially stable and all that stuff, then you have to join capitalism. But you don't have to abuse capitalism. You know what I'm saying? You take what you can and you push it to the side, and you hand it down. You know what I'm saying? A good thing to invest in is diamonds and gold. I mean, like, come on now. You know, like diamonds and gold. You know what I'm saying? Like, because these things are assets. You know what I'm saying? Other than having the major asset, which would be a house. You know what I'm saying? That's your money maker. You know what I'm saying? You want to leave a money maker for your kids, so you can't. At the same time, you can't reject society like, I'm gonna live off the grid, because you're gonna end up homeless. You see what I'm saying? And so the people that fell victim to this capitalism ended up being the inner cities of America. And so when we're dealing with depression, so these slides is about depression. We gotta teach and teach these people how to cope with capitalism. You see what I'm saying? Because capitalism, if you don't flow with it, it can turn on you and lead you into depression, suicide, and homelessness. So it's really like a spiritual thing. You know what I'm saying? Because if you can uh uh live off the grid mentally, then depression won't ride its ugly head upon you. You know what I'm saying? But the other factor is the materialism and the invention of television, radio frequency, digital frequency, you know. And then and trust me, this is Adams Gerard, born and raised South Central Los Angeles, inner city housing projects. So this ain't nobody who's just rehearsing. This is all freestyle. I've been through it. I saw it. I saw dead bodies. I saw needles. I saw gang shootings, broad daylight. I saw people get shot. I saw crackhead. I saw everything. Mother strung out on drugs. I saw it. I saw it all. See, I suffered from depression, mental illness, because I wanted to be in the, and I wanted to be a part of capitalism. I let capitalism take over my mind, because when you poor, you want something. You envy, and you want to emulate what you see. And this is how capitalists capitalize on resources. You know what I'm saying? So let's just get to the slides. Couple of slides, short video. Just want to just bring some information, So we have 13% of the U.S. population identified as Black or African American. Of those, 16% had a diagnosable mental illness in the past year. And this is 2014 Bureau report. So that's over 6.8 million people diagnosed with mental illnesses. That's more than the populations of Chicago, Houston, and Philadelphia combined. And I don't want to go that deep, but y'all know where I'm coming from, where this mental illness came from. As I stated before, it comes from the 13 colonies. The Puritans, the system that came overseas was to oppress a certain people, while the other half gets rich, and they just left us out the whole equation. It was never meant for us to have it. See, these are things that we have to understand. These are mental things that you have to understand that you're never going to get it like them. These people stole somebody's land and then charged the people that were native to the land or die, right? So I'm showing these slides to show you that don't be this person. Don't be this person, man. To hell with capitalism, man. Just work your job. It's important to save dead money, because that's what it is. If it within the money circulates for about, what I think they said about 2 years. I could be mistaken, audience, but they say the money circulates for about 2 to 4 years before they burn it up and make new money. You know, wrinkle money, and then you get some fresh new money. It's like a recycling process. Man, hold the dead money and keep on getting the new money. You know what I'm saying? That's all we can do in this society. But we can't be mentally fused with capitalism, because then you become an extra head of gaining, or a benefactor of financial gain, and you know where you're getting your money from, off the backs of slaves, right? So look at this right here. Diagnosis rate and rate of change for major oppression by age. It's 2013 to 2016. Now look at that, 12 to 17 years old, 1 to 2.6%. Now, it don't seem like nothing, right? But look at it. That's 63%. So 63% of the minority are being diagnosed with depression, because they great grandmama ain't had it, the grandmama ain't had it, the mama ain't had it, passed it down to the children, they ain't had it. But we was always,
Hey, I got the nail stuff.
oh my God. But in that process, we were chasing capitalism because we were lusting. I mean, when you're so poor, man, you just want something. So, going into some historical accuracy on what I'm speaking about, the history of eugenics theory can be traced back to the mid to late 1860s, when the mysteries of genetics were being unrevealed by the collective work of Herbert Spencer, Mendel. People had known for years that offspring were a combination of traits of their parents. Now, when you study further into Charles Darwin and the eugenics movement, you would understand that they applied the animal nature, the animalistic nature, of an animal. They applied it later on to the later on so-called slaves. So breeding and studying the mind of animals, they equated us to, monkeys and all of that stuff right there. You know what I'm saying? So, but from this point, this is when they start, and even before the slaves came to America, they was doing this to the Indians. They was studying the skulls. They was like, these people stupid, like they got the mind of an ape, and things like this. So this eugenics movement were the first capitalists of America, with an ideology of somebody had to be poor in order for us to uh, have a financial gain, or you know, be a product of the rich class, you know. So do some research on that, man, and check out eugenics and how it it uh it uses zoology as a platform to study, that will later become the study of African Americans or the native man. So just showing you historical factors that led us up to this point where we suffer from this capitalistic mental illness. Everybody want it, but you never get it. So stop trying to look for it. That's what I'm trying to teach you. You know, get what you can get out of this capitalistic state. You can get a car, you can get a house, you can buy some gold, you can buy some diamonds. It's up to you though. But don't go overboard with it, because you won't make it. You can even get a business. See, these are things that we just don't come together and do, you know? So it's because of us that we're down. Because we want to be individually capitalists, you know? And it's crazy. So this right here is the Emancipation Proclamation, Proclamation 95. So let me just read it. Was a presidential proclamation, an exclusive order issued by the United States President Abraham Lincoln, January 1st, 1863. It changed the federal legal status of more than 3.5 million enslaved Americans in the designated areas of South from slaves to free. As soon as the slaves escaped the control of the Confederate government by running away or through advanced federal troops, the former slaves became free. Ultimately, the rebels surrendered, liberated, and resulted in the proclamation application to all the designated former slaves. It did not cover slaves in Union areas that were freed by state actions, or 3 years later by the 13th Amendment in December 1865. It was issued as a war measure during the American Civil War, dedicated to all the areas in rebellion. So let's continue. I'm not going to even go there. Let's just go down. The proclamation ordered the freedom of the slaves in the 10 states. Because it was an issue under the president's authority to suppress the rebellion war powers, it necessarily excluded areas not in rebellion, but still applied to more than 3.5 million or the 4 million slaves. The proclamation was based on the president's constitutional authority as commander-in-chief of the armed forces. This is a general in the middle of a battlefield, and he gave an order. It was not a law passed by Congress. What? See, that's where that 1965 thing come in right there. That's when the slaves were free, bro. And this and the Indians and the Hispanics were right up in this. They fitted right up in this category too. So let's continue. The proclamation was issued on January 1863 after the U.S. government issued a series of warnings in the summer of 1862. Let's skip ahead. Allowing the Southern Confederate supporters 60 days to surrender the face of confiscation of land and slaves. The proclamation also ordered that the suitable persons among those free could be enrolled into a paid service of United States forces. Then let me go down to the underlines. Uh, the proclamation did not compensate the owners, uh, did not outlaw slavery, did not gain citizenship to the ex-slaves called freemen. It made the eradication of slavery an explicit war goal, man. Don't you ever sit there and say that Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves. It was nothing but a war goal. It was just a general that was in the middle of war, and he gathered some troops. So from this point on, you know, we've been in the middle of 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 two parties, Democrats and Republicans. Both of them are capitalists. I mean, why would you hurrah for Democrats when the first Democrats were Southerners? Why would you want to be a Republican when the North uh 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 had slaves, basically, but working slaves where they can get paid and they can actually build their own houses, but on somebody's farm. But you ain't getting the same wages that man getting right next to you. So all these generations of suffering, it leads to depression, illness. So from the colonies to the proclamation to Andrew Jackson's Reconstruction, this is the state that we're living in right now. And trust me, downtown, there's all type of races down there, from Asians to blacks to Hispanics to Indians to Hawaiians to everything that you can think down there. So these are the conditions that we're living in right now. So um, don't never be in the pursuit of capitalism, because all you're doing is separating yourself from the people who were the original aboriginal people of this land, and look how they living right now. So just want to share, man, some information with y'all, man. More statistics. 1.2% of the population identify as Native Americans or Alaskan Natives. Of those, over 21%, it's kind of blurry, had mental illness in this past year. This is also 2014. That's over 830,000 people, enough to fill every Major League Baseball stadium on the East Coast twice. Right? J.P. Morgan discloses past links to slavery. New York Times, J.P. Morgan Chase co-filed a disclosure settlement Thursday in the city of Chicago, acknowledging that two of its predecessor banks received thousands of slaves as collateral prior to the Civil War. The New York-based company, the national second largest, apologized for contributing to the brutal and unjust institution and said it was setting up a scholarship fund in Louisiana to try to make amends. Oh my God, man, one of the billion-trillion-dollar company, huh? Man, off the backbone of slaves. Capitalism at its finest. Let's see what Nixon said. The author, Dan Bonham, opens a piece with a scene. He finds John uh, Erickman, Nixon's former domestic policy advisor, working at an engineering firm in Atlantic in 1994, who is researching drug prohibition politics, started to ask him earnestly wonka wonky question. Let's just get down to it. I ain't getting all in that. Okay. He asks, with the bluntness of a man who, after public disgrace and stretched a federal prison, had little left to protect. The Nixon campaign in 1968 and the Nixon White House after that had two enemies: the anti-war left and black people. You understand what I'm saying? You know we couldn't make it illegal to be either against the war on blacks, but by getting the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and blacks with heroin, and the criminalization both heavily, we could disrupt those communities. We could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night on the evening news. This is by Nixon. This in the state that we're in. See, it's an illusion given by, uh, oh my God, man, look, given by, or which started. See, this started Andrew Jackson's Reconstruction, and people don't know about the sundown laws that were in place before the Jim Crow laws. Even in Abraham Lincoln's time, they had the sundown laws where colored people had to get up out of towns at sundown or you might get killed. I mean, this is the same thing, propaganda, man. I mean, like, the prison system is it's becoming the one of the biggest businesses on the face of this planet. The stock exchange is very high. These capitalists are capitalizing on big businesses. Come on, man. It's a setup. I mean, now look at this, man. This is straight info right here. Okay. Let me see. Let me start right here. But this was only temporarily, as white tenants left the project for homes in solitary middle-class suburbs. Blacks whom housing elsewhere was barred buried disproportionately remain. Whereas in 1947, Los Angeles public housing tenants were 55% white and 30% black. By 1959, there were only 14% white and 65% blacks, with Mexican origin tenants another 19%. Los Angeles public housing became came to be perceived as a Negro housing, and whites began to protest the location of new projects in their neighborhoods. Public officials caved in, and projects initially designated for white areas were relocated to Watts. A project designed for Santa Monica, for example, was canceled after such protests and relocated to Watts. 3 new projects were built in Watts between 1953 and 1955 alone, turning Watts from an area where some blacks were already residing to an impoverished and racially isolated ghetto. Now, this is where all the factories were at. Man, capitalism, strategy, location. is everything. We got another one. But best known in Los Angeles public housing history was an attempt to build a racially integrated project in Cesar Chavez Ravine, northwest of downtown and far from Watts. By the end of 1951, the land had been cleared and construction began. But the city council called an emergency meeting and canceled the project. The California Supreme Court voted the cancellation, but the council responded in 1952, referendum, and voters overwhelmingly rejected the public housing. The city then sold the land that had been cleared to the Dodger Stadium baseball team. Whoo! See, if the projects were in the neighborhoods where there was lucrative business and trading and high income areas and all of that, hey, we'll be part of capitalism, but we was shut out. They ain't want us to be there in the first place. You know, just giving some news. Yeah, now this was an article, I think it was Facebook or something like that, and this was somebody who gave their recollection on their attempt of suicide. I sat on the floor in the bedroom and thought long and hard about it. How could I affix the belt to the door and wrap it around my neck to take my life? I was overwhelmed with sadness and guilt, and I wanted to end it. I also thought it would be easier for everyone if I wasn't here. Man, this is what I said when I was growing up. Why am I alive? Why am I here? What I was put on earth for? To live right here and to be poor all my life? And then looking on TV and I'm seeing different strokes and all these people rich. And I'm like, well, why are we living like this? And my mama told me, you in a society where there's racism. I said, wow. You know? And so this is why there's mental illness on the rise. It's the lust, the envy, and the jealousy of some people who stole land. They are immigrants. You know, and it's just the mind trickery, you know what I'm saying? And I wish I could have punched up the statistics on how and I'm sure you guys already know on how we the biggest consumers in the United States of America. I mean, like, man, we feeding these people, man. You feeding these people, but when you look around your house, you ain't got what they got. Why is you feeding these people when you could be buying diamond rings and gold and assets, things that do nothing but go up in value over time, antiques and all of these things, which they do all the time. So we got to get up out of this this mental capitalism state that we're in. We're too lustful. We want everything right then and there. You know, we're never satisfied. You know, we turn on our families, arguments, frustrations, breaking up, divorces. Come on, man. We gotta learn how to live native again. You know, live off the grid mentally. Yeah, you gotta go to work physically, but don't let it lead you to suicide, you know? And so with that, man, this is Adam Gerard, LA Ghetto Time News, man. Hope this was edifying. wasn't too much art, I mean, like shit. But hope y'all feel me, man. Spread the message, man. There's only one God, only one creator, whoever he may be in your life, you know what I'm saying? And spread love, man. And even though it won't work, but the loves, the gathering should make you angry and want to do something about this battle with these forces, these dark nature forces. You would want to combat that. Hey, we could change the world. It's gonna take a lot of love. So peace, y'all.